Welcome to the Resilience Sucks podcast, brought to you by the Adaptability Movement. I'm Ben.
And I'm Dan.
And we're here to give you resources and tools to help you go from a state of surviving to thriving in life.
Resilience sucks the life out of you. And while it's a necessary skill, it's one that we don't want to spend too much time in or we run out of capacity. We're here to talk to you more about how to adapt and find the opportunity in change so you can really go about thriving in your own life.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Pool Compliance Adelaide. Pool Compliance Adelaide has a simple mission: to provide professional advice and photographic proof that your pool complies with the relevant state statutory requirements. If you're buying, renting, or even selling a property, make sure your pool is compliant with Pool Compliance Adelaide.
Welcome to the Resilience Sucks podcast. We've got Nick Antoniadis. This is actually our second take. We'll see if the first one works or not. But the reason Nick's here today is Nick and I met at the Adelaide Farmers Markets 2 weeks ago. Just very warm body language and openness to, probably on both sides of that encounter. And I was there with my youngest daughter, and the rest of the family was just ducking off to the toilet and sat down and same table, and conversation just sort of blossomed from there. So Nick's an ex-school teacher, particularly working with refugees, ex-footballer, and as I mentioned on the first take, somewhat of a community advocate and just someone that really likes sharing his experience of life and what you've learned from it. So welcome, Nick, and
thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
If I could just quickly say thank you for the opportunity, and I really enjoyed meeting you, and I really respect what you and your team are doing. I think it's great for everybody that you work with, and likewise I had a great warmth with your character, and particularly the way you were saying stuff and how you were saying stuff and what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, but I don't like the bays, sorry.
That's fine. We discovered when we brought Nick in this morning that he was actually a South man himself, so Ben and him have got plenty in common, and apparently the bays don't measure up, so which is obviously where I played most of my career. So, but I think we're 10 years out of the SNFL now after my injury, and things are quite different with where I'm in life, and football was a big part of that, and team sport is, I think we can all agree that that's where you learn a lot of your lessons in life, because it's kind of raw and probably inappropriate at times, and in a way that sort of it helps you kind of self-regulate and self-moderate the way that you want to grow yourself in life, and the sorts of things that are purposeful to you. But I feel quite fortunate for sport and what it's taught me, because there's not often that you get that many people together in the same environment where conversations just sort of pop up out of nowhere. For the average person that hasn't had a sporting background and just gone through school and work, it's often a very sanitized environment, and while there might be less mistakes made in that, we all know that mistakes are where the best learning comes from, don't we? So can you speak to that a little bit in terms of your own experience of sport, and I mean, you obviously came through a different generation to myself as well.
What specifically are you asking?
Well, like in terms of what was it about sport? Was it the personal growth? Like you talked about taking a lot of pride in your preparation and performance, something that I can relate to.
Look, my story is a bit different because I've got an ethnic background. So I think initially it was like being accepted with your peers, which I think is the same for everybody in every age group. You want to be accepted by your peers. So being an ethnic kid at a young age, having a Greek background, I was conscious of being different, and I was very sensitive. I am still sensitive. So I didn't want the harassment. So there was an extra edge to me because I saw that being cool was being good at sport. So I tried my utmost to be better, so I would be cool and I wouldn't get the harassing comments. And that kind of developed slowly, and as I played longer and over the years, that was a big part for me. And I noticed that having success gave me that acceptance, automatic acceptance, so I was relieved. So probably number one was my peer group and being accepted. And then number two, the other things of, teamwork and competitiveness and being with other people and the fun of it. And when you're young in Australia, everyone plays footy and tennis or cricket. I played footy and tennis, so that were probably the first two, I think.
Yeah.
being accepted, and then the enjoyment of doing it with your mates.
Yeah. So we're just discovering more commonalities with Ben as well. So Ben's two main sports are footy and tennis. I think we've all shared the benefits of that experience, and what you were saying about trying to fit in, trying to find a place where you feel valued and belong. And so we've each had different experiences of that, and for me, I've been through different sports as well. I started off playing soccer actually at a Greek club at Hobart Olympic, and then sort of made my way through to footy quite late. Toyed with a bit of beach volleyball and some kayaking, and ended up with an athletics career post injury for the last 6 years. So
you're lucky in that sense, Ben, because you've got the right body type for lots of sport. So you could translate if you had the skill, your body type is perfect for heaps of sports, different sports.
Yeah, totally. So, but it's something that shapes us. But I think through that experience, and during your sort of younger and developing years too, it's kind of you make a lot of mistakes, like we said, and you discover a lot of things about yourself. But it also helps shape you sort of post career. Like I think it gives you. For me, it's helped shape my purpose around what I want to do with work and how I want to help people. And for a lot of my life, that had been just through sports performance. Like everything I wanted to do was sport. Like I wanted to play it, I wanted to coach it, I wanted to live it and breathe it. And it's funny, like I'm closing in on my 40th birthday, and the last couple of years have really changed it again for me. And I mentioned that big shift that I had, with it career-ending injury and going into parasport, 10 years ago now, and I thought that was a big sort of revelation for me. But the last couple of years has been even more profound in that I've kind of worked out it's not just sport. It's the experience with people. It's the growth that we share together, and it's the connection, the relationships that come from that. And to have the opportunity to sort of share this message of the adaptability movement with people gives me an opportunity to take that out. And maybe take it to not just an audience of my demographic or people older that maybe have had the experience, the wisdom to understand some of those concepts, but to now start to introduce it earlier with younger athletes and younger people in general, not even people that are in sport, to give them that head start. It's not my job to tell them how to do something, but there's an opportunity to plant a few seeds to help them sort of maybe begin their journey a little bit earlier, or to explore some really important stuff at a very life-defining sort of moment for them.
Yeah, look, a lot of things that happen when you're young stay with you, whether it's sport or non-sport, and it's a real developmental stage. Especially, I think one thing we're going to talk about today is your self-esteem, and related to what I said earlier with being accepted was my self-esteem. I felt different initially because being ethnic, my parents did stuff that other kids didn't do. So there was a huge pressure on me, which was direct and indirect. So, you wouldn't know that because that's internal. And what happens, what I've learned in life is we all have internal backgrounds of things that are positive, and they're the things we're good at. And unfortunately, I think I've learned, not learned, but become more aware of I don't know the right word, but the baggage, the negativity that people carry because it's happened before, and they kind of remind themselves and they don't let it go.
Yeah.
And because they don't let it go, it influences them and drags them down. And a little story I use with students and some other people that I'm close to is, you can use a lot of analogies, but it's like this. All of us, I'll use my name. There's two little Nicks. There's this Nick, who's the positive Nick, and this Nick, who's the negative Nick. And when people who seem to be struggling have, I think they're listening to this person too much, and they're a victim, and they forget they have a choice, they have the power, but because they don't have the self-belief and the self-identity and acceptance, love, all those things, this person dominates.
Yeah.
And because this person dominates, it's a kind of a spiral that goes down. And it's, for me, it's easy to see it because you can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it when you meet someone.
Yeah.
And if I could just add an example.
Sure.
You don't know who this is, but I'm working with someone at the moment just as a friend, and I can explain it later if you're interested. But I asked this person, how are you? And this was the response, my life is shit. Now, sorry to say that, but that reaction to me says, help.
Yeah.
big time help.
Yeah.
So the reason that we got together was we had a mutual interest, and then me with my type of character and what I think's important, I couldn't help but say to this friend of mine, "Are you happy to talk about it?" Their response was yes, because of this association we have with our connection with a common thing. So that opened up a huge opportunity, and now it's 4.5 months down the track. This person has changed his habitual pattern, and he's done a 180. And I don't want to give specifics because anyone who knows me might know who I'm talking about. Their life now, if you ask this person, this is the test. How are you? Straight away, this person's going, don't highlight any negativity. I got more positivity than negativity, and they have now.
Yeah.
And their response is, yeah, I'm going okay. Or I'm going good, which is completely different from my life is shit.
Yeah.
So
it's an important conversation, and there's different ways of looking at this, and which plays to what you're saying, because it's all about how we frame things. And often you'll hear, well, someone will ask, very Aussie culture, ask you how you're going, but they don't really want to know.
No.
Like it's like, don't ask him how he's going because he might actually tell you.
Yeah.
So there's that concept, and I think from an openness point of view, we should all be prepared to acknowledge and try and be somewhat at ease with what our struggles are in life. So I don't think it's healthy to hide that, but at the same time, I think there's also we talked about this in an earlier episode about. In fact, it wasn't a podcast episode. You have to find it in our social media, but we talked about the power of language and about manifesting the type of life that you want to live. And if you're giving all of your energy to my life is shit, and very broad general statements too, very strong statements, what you're doing is you're giving a lot of energy to that. So you're almost like feeding it as a repetitive cycle.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely merit. So yes, be open. Yes, be willing to share those struggles, but also like have that kind of self-awareness to go, how much energy you want to give to this? So yes, I probably need to process some stuff and share it. But then let's talk about what we want to move towards. Let's talk about the type of life we want to create as well. Because like you said, there is this kind of duality. There is that sort of, you described it as the positive and negative voice. And some people might think we're crazy talking about little voices talking to us, but I think most people have an awareness that this
but there is a
plays.
Voice.
Absolutely.
Because
there's an internal
I can
conversation.
ask you a question about your football skills, and I know you're pretty humble, but for you to be successful in anything, anybody, you have to have self-confidence.
Yeah.
And the thing that I found when I was playing footy was I started from being scared and then getting a kick, getting a few kicks and feeling confident. And under 14s, half my team were freaks, and I didn't think I measured up to these guys. And so I would punch the ball because I was so paranoid that my opponent would get the ball and kick a goal, and then I'd be feeling really bad. Yeah. Then in under 15s, for some reason, I think I got voted captain. I got voted captain in this team of freaks. Half the team were freaks. So we won the flag 13, 14, 15, under 13, 14, 15. Now I got voted captain of these half a team of freaks. So all of a sudden I had this growth of confidence because these guys have voted me captain. Yeah. So what happened was, instead of going for the punch, if I was standing you, my mindset was, if I get the ball, you can't get the ball, you can't kick a goal. Yeah. So automatically I changed from being like the underconfident to being overconfident. Yeah, okay. So me in footy gear, before the game, I was really confident. Okay. And just was expecting the best. Yeah. And it worked. And then after footy, I became the quiet guy again. Yeah. And I had so much success. And years later, when I did PE teaching, they called it sports psychology. Yeah. So I was using sports psychology aspects as a 14-year-old kid, not realising the name of it, which doesn't matter, but then reading about it and studying sport and trying to improving my tennis or whatever I was doing, and seeing the term of it, and saying, oh, this is called affirmations, this is called visualisation, because I used to visualise, the stuff that I would be doing in the game, and it worked. And then if you translate that to life, you can do the same thing in life, but you've got to have an awareness of what, whereas this person will say, oh no, I can't do that because my dad or my mum, or whatever happened. Whereas this person, that's finished. Yeah. So good, bad, ugly, whatever happened to anybody, you don't relive it.
Yeah.
because that's called visualization, and that's
This is what I was talking about, giving energy to
yeah.
something.
And so what you have to do is create. You have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself,
Yeah.
and this is where this.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the analogy is, but this analogy where this person is reminding you.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't done a podcast before, but I'm an older person, and I don't. You know, I'm a little bit anxious, but not anxious at all, to be honest. You know, because it's just the camera and Ben sitting over there, and you and me. It's
Yeah.
like a group of mates.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad example, but you got to have a belief of something's happened before it happens,
Yeah.
and believing that you can do it.
Yeah.
Whatever you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So you're a father.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm sure at some point you were thinking, should I marry, you know, your partner? I don't know if you're married, but
We're
should
married, yeah.
should you be with this
Yeah.
person? Should you have a child? Because it's a big call. Should you come to South Australia from Tasmania? You know, we do it all the time, and people who are good at stuff have a habit of doing it. People who are not good at stuff or are unhealthy or unhappy, they're not doing it either because they're not aware or they no one's giving them the message and they haven't made it a habit.
Yeah. Liquid gold.
So for me, every time I hear a criticism, I can't help it now. It's like I don't give energy to criticism or whinging or negativity. So for me, anyone that says anything negative, I immediately change it to a positive, and I think, okay, do I want to be near this person?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to pick up their negativity.
Yeah. We talk about there's an energy transaction in any interaction, any relationship, and we've spoken about this in our sports performance side of the business, where if you're going to bring someone new into the group, you're looking for a net positive gain. So that doesn't mean someone has to be positive all the time, but generally, like you want someone that is bringing something that contributes to enhance the group's energy, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, if you've got someone that's stuck in that cycle, it's not to say we can't help you, but bringing that into a group environment is neither going to help the group nor the individual. So well, it's all good. So the way you're describing to me, and you talked about sort of that negative, positive, like what I hear sort of fear versus kind of, you know, like some sort of self-confidence, self-esteem type.
Other way around.
Yeah.
That's the fear.
Well, sorry, because you're saying left to right. Sorry, I'm sitting the opposite, so I'm mirroring.
But it doesn't matter which side, obviously. It
Yeah,
doesn't
absolutely. So it's interesting that left versus right. I have to look into that in terms of spiritual representations.
Just trying to be corny there, but it doesn't matter.
All good.
Whichever way you see it.
Yeah. But I guess the fundamental message is if you're living in fear, you're going to look for some form of safety. And sometimes safety is I'm a victim. It's someone else's fault. This is my my upbringing. This is my socioeconomic background. Is whatever, right? There is always going to be a reason why you can use one of those excuses for why life doesn't feel satisfying to
Can I
you.
give you an example?
Yeah, go for it.
Anyone can give someone a compliment. The immediate effect of a compliment is an uplifting feeling to the person that received the compliment.
Yeah.
Smile is the same.
Yeah.
When you smile, you can't be negative. You can't physically. Your body doesn't operate. When you smile, you have a positive effect, and it may last for a short time, may last for a long time. Depends what it's about.
Yeah.
But that's an example of what I'm talking about. People that are, when I'm saying that people are positive and negative, I'm not saying that if you're positive, you're better than someone. You're just aware.
Yeah.
And you're aware that you have the choice and the power, but you're just not used to it.
Yeah.
And, I use myself as an example. As a kid, I didn't have that success. I had more fear because I was ethnic. I was different. I thought I was different. I wasn't confident, so then it translated to how I played sport. I was a good player, but I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I'd only have glimpses of good results. But as I got a bit older, the glimpses became more.
Yeah.
And then when I got to about 14, 15, I think it was because I got voted captain. I think and I won a trophy too, but that was at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Trophy was the best team man.
Yeah.
Which I thought, am I happy about this? And I got a trophy in the team of freaks.
Yeah.
But I got it for best team man.
Yeah.
So and then I thought, no, that's good, because that means they respect you. And at 14, you want the best player award. You don't want the best team man.
Yeah.
But that was my first trophy.
Yeah.
As I told you, the guys who elected me captain, the guys were freaks. We won the flag again. So I think people are they haven't had a lot of people haven't had someone of significance tell them you're okay.
Yeah.
And you're okay and this is a really important one,
Yeah.
the way you are.
Yeah.
You know, even if you are scoring 7 out of 10 or 6.5 out of 10 in your
Yeah.
life, you're still scoring 6.5.
Yeah.
And you can get 7,
Yeah.
but you just got to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Whereas a person who's not happy, as I described my friend who told me that his life was not that good, he'd be lucky if he scored his life 1 or 2 out of 10 because he was feeling so,
Sure.
you know. But I just want to make one more point, Daniel, is that perspective's a big one.
Yeah.
I did martial arts for a while, and when you do martial arts, the colour of your belt's really important, you know. So I was like everybody else. I wanted to get black belt. You know.
Yeah.
And then what happens is when I was green belt, I was happy, but I'm not as good as the brown belts.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a black belt, and the black belt's the big goal. You know.
Yeah.
But what I realised was that when I was green belt, I was better than the yellow belts and the white belts, but I didn't look that way. I kept looking that way.
Yeah.
And that word perspective, for me, that was a great analogy when I realised it, because I was doing all right as a green belt, because I developed from a yellow belt, and they have levels in yellow belt, and you have white belt, you have levels again. When I got to brown, same thing. You know, I thought, oh, this is cool, but I'm not a black belt. But then it had clicked, by green belt it had clicked, that I'm better than the green, not better, but I'm more skilled than the green belts and the yellow
More
belts and the white belts.
Yeah.
Then I got to be black belt, and I thought, it wasn't as important. It was still important, right? But it wasn't, on a scale of 10, maybe it was, I don't know, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10. Whereas when I started, it was 10 plus out of 10.
Yeah.
So, and then you realise, well, okay, but there's second Dan, third Dan. So, the same thing in life, you know. We have this thing where we judge and compare, you know, oh, you're younger than me. Yeah, but I've had more experience than you, and you might not get to 66, you know. So sorry to talk like this.
No, not at all.
But it translates to everything.
Yeah.
You know, we're conditioned to not acknowledge what we have, but we to look at what we haven't got, and then to judge ourselves on, you know, what we haven't got.
Yeah.
You know, so that was one thing I learned with the students, that to be humble with what their complexity of life story compared to mine.
Yeah.
You know, you could say, one of my colleagues doesn't think I'm a good teacher, or I crack too many jokes, or whatever I did that they don't like, and get in a turmoil about it. You know, it's not really that important. You know, perspective of my problem of some comment as opposed to some life-changing event that these students had gone through. You know, with in Afghanistan or whatever that had happened to them, which was quite complex and severe. So I think perspective is huge. It's huge and that translates to acknowledging what you've got.
Yeah.
You know, and being grateful. And this is a huge word that's come to my attention maybe 15 years ago. I'm really grateful for lots of stuff. And when you're grateful, it puts you in a positive mindset, because you focus on what you got.
Yeah.
You know, and same with my character, same with material things. So I don't need much to be happy, because if I've got enough in my life. I couldn't, you know, like I've got certain clothes on today. My son wanted me to buy them. I'm glad I bought them. Yeah. But it's not the stuff that I go looking for to feel happier.
Sure.
But now that I've bought, you know, this pair of shoes, this, you know, everything I've got on today, my son kind of picked out for me.
Nice.
But I don't go looking for it. But now that I've got it, I feel good. But I was just as happy without it. Yeah. Which is, it's a corny example, but gratefulness is...
It's the simplicity, isn't it?
Like, yeah, and go back to my friend who said his life wasn't travelling very well. He wasn't grateful for anything. And now he's grateful for lots of stuff. Yeah. So if you were ever to meet him, and I hope you do, you know, he may be interested in being interviewed. I don't know. Yeah. It's a bit personal, but he's gone from being not aware of it to being really aware of it. Yeah. And his life has changed 180. Yeah.
And well, the first step has to be self-awareness, because if you're not self-aware, you don't know where you are, you don't understand yourself in a way where you can open yourself up to more growth and to more learning.
See, I want to say something which sounds kind of hypocritical, but what I've learned is you've got to be selfish. Yeah. And we have a connotation of selfishness being negative. It's not negative. Selfishness means accepting yourself and working on yourself, because if I'm happier, I'm a better teacher, I'm a better father, I'm a better partner, I'm a better tennis player, I'm a better mate to my mates.
Yeah.
But if I'm not, then it's like, nah, you're just in a different place.
Yeah.
You're not thinking.
There's the way we talk about it is self-care versus self-sacrifice. And you and I had this conversation when we first met, and this is one of the most important conversations we can be having right now. Because as you said, we get stereotyped as being selfish if we start to pay attention to ourselves. But the broader picture, if you look at it, and as you just said, like when we pay attention to ourselves, when we are more self-aware and we can self-care for ourselves, we fill ourselves up, we regenerate, we provide ourselves with more energy to be able to then share with others. So we bring our best version of us to others. So if we each do that, then we create better interactions, we create better relationships and a healthier community. When we don't do that, when we focus on self-sacrifice first, because it says that I owe you something first before I owe me something, well, we create this dysfunctional relationship based on resentment, based on frustration, based on dependence, and we'll never be satisfied because we haven't actually addressed our own needs first before being able to give freely to others.
Many people have heard these expressions, but you have to accept yourself before other people accept you.
Yeah.
You have to love yourself before someone else
Absolutely.
can love you. And it goes back to what, not what you said, but it's universal stuff, laws. We are energy, so we're magnets. So you attract where you're at. Yeah. So if you're not happy, if we look at my example of my friend, he was attracting where he was at.
Yeah.
He had to make a call to let that go and to clear it and then work on himself. And the unbelievable thing was probably within about a month and a half, things changed for him in a month and a half. But this guy's essence, the essence of this guy that I'm talking about, is a really nice person, gentle. He's got a lot of positive aspects, but he wasn't aware of it. So I wanted to make that point about you got to accept yourself before other people accept you. And one more thing about that is, like if you want to be happier, you have to generate that first.
Yeah.
You can't go around going, are they going to be happy with me, or are they going to be helpful to me? If you're happy and helpful and the things that you want, you have to demonstrate it first.
Yeah.
And then, not all the time, but you got more chance of that coming back to you.
Yeah.
E.g. our meeting, we were both friendly and we both had a similar mindset. So it was open, bang, interlocked, connected. So people kind of expect other people to be helpful and happy and first, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a passive way of sort of experiencing life where you're kind of hoping or you're expecting someone else to lead you that way first.
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. You're right. And because we talked about this in a previous episode of the podcast about kind of when you first begin a relationship, about we never really have that conversation to set a standard. But you're kind of doing that through example in that situation because you're going, well, actually the sort of standard I want to set in this relationship is one of positivity, of care, of empathy, of compassion, and by doing that, it naturally elevates the other person into that space, which is it's an attractive energy. Like most people want to be there, and so when they meet someone like that, they're drawn to that. Like you said, we're magnets for that, right?
If you ask any people, or you ask people and they're honest, who are the people they're attracted to? They all have that trait.
Yeah.
They have positivity, and that's why you want to see them. You want to be with them. I use you as an example. Ben's sitting over there. I don't know Ben, but I'm picking up his energy easily. You invited me to come today. Yeah. I got no qualms coming at all, because of lots of reasons. But one of the reasons is because I like being around you. Yeah. And because of who you are. And it's the same with all our friends. Your best friends are the people that generate that type of positivity, that energy, and you enjoy being with them. Yeah. So my point is, for your own benefit, for health, for happiness, for effectiveness, if you can empower yourself, the thing is to become aware of it. And then I suppose for most people, I'm going to give you a plug here, for most people, you need a mentor. Yeah. Because the reason you haven't got it, like my friend that I mentioned before, is that no one in their life had told them the stuff we're talking about. Yeah. So I've become like a friend-mentor. Yeah. And then we have this similar activity that we do together that I'm helping him with, which is unrelated. It's like a sport. So most people, I think, and this is where the average person doesn't do it, because we don't like saying, I got a problem, I got a hassle, I need help.
Yeah, well, it's that kind of inferiority. Like, we
Yeah,
don't like
and
to
guys
feel less than.
in particular,
Yeah.
and probably teenagers, because that's a big part of what they go through, but every aspect of life. And so what I wanted to say is, in this case, you know, what you and Ben are doing in your organisation, your business, is not perfect, but it's on that page of, here's a possibility if you relate to these people. My friend has related it to me, because something about me has made him think, because this guy's a quiet guy, he doesn't open up. So something about me has opened him up for him to tell me his truths. So what I'd say to people who are listening to this is, you know, in your life, you're lucky to have people that you respect. You know, hopefully it's your parents. Some people don't have that. Sometimes it can be a best friend. Sometimes it can be someone like a sports coach or a teacher, or someone that you've met who's, you know, those influential people that you met.
Yeah.
I had one guy at Teachers College, an American guy. I had my first karate teacher, and then I've had some other people who I've met incidentally in my in mid-20s, when I was doing a lot of self-growth stuff and going to things. So I think for the average person, if you can identify someone that you trust, if it's any of the people I mentioned, or anyone that you feel comfortable with, who's kind of a little bit ahead of you on the path of life, and then they can coach you, mentor you, support you, and give you that little awareness of, you're okay, you know. And what do you want to change? Okay, well, let go. What's stopping you? And you mentioned fear. What's stopping you? What happened to me when I was 10, or, you know, my friends, or one thing that happened to me at high school. I went to a school like Adelaide High, about 1,500 plus students, probably about 5 ethnics. Now, being the person I was, even though in year 8 and 9 in particular, when I wasn't that confident, I got all the comments about being ethnic, and I won't say what they were, but they were pretty derogatory and harsh. Now, me, being me, I'm a pretty cool guy outside, but inside I was panicking, I was petrified. And one of the school bullies came up and said, you know, and gave me all the lingo, all the derogatory and stuff, and said, you're all the same. Now, out of nowhere, I came up with a saying, it came from the universe, I don't know where, but I said, no, mate, you know, I'm not what he said. He goes, yes, you are, and sweared at me. And I said, no. He goes, what's the difference? I said, I'm Cypriot, that's right. I said, I'm Greek Cypriot, not Greek. He goes, what's the difference? I said, we got 2 eyebrows. Greeks have got 1. Now, I had never said that before. I thought about it, right? Now, at that moment of crisis, I was breaking up inside, but outside I was cool, right? And this guy laughed. He laughed. And the fact that he laughed made me cool, and I wasn't a victim, and I didn't react. And then the other side was I was a little bit okay at sport at that point. So being a little bit cool in sport and not reacting changed everything for me.
It's interesting, like, so much of school life is about fitting in. It's about conforming and just being like everyone else, because there's this fear of a fear of standing out, right? This fear of being different. And yet, you know, we talked about this at the very beginning, and talked about sort of, you know, the spiritual roots in it, but like we're all connected. Like, you know, there's, you know, you can't walk into a negative room and not feel somewhat affected by that energy. You can still be a positive person, but there's a collective weight to that, right? But the thing that makes us interesting is what's different about us, like the uniqueness. So if it wasn't for that, well, then how long is it? You know, yeah, we get on well because we have got a lot in common, but also we get on well because it's interesting to learn about each other's experience of life and how you came to.
When you're younger, you operate in a different mindset.
That's what I'm saying, right? Imagine if that wasn't different. Imagine if we didn't have to undo all of that programming that is instilled throughout that schooling life or schooling system. Because what you demonstrated to that bully is, well, actually, like, I'm not the same. Like, you know, yes, you know, there's things that are similar, but there's something special about me. There's value to me, and you disarmed him through that humour. And when you disarmed him, it took away that lens of you're all the same as them and we're different to you.
But if it'd gone another way, if it'd gone the negative way, then I would have been in a position where I could have carried that for a long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah.
But I think you guys have the word resilience. I think you have to have a bit of an armour to you. And this is the related to when you want something that you haven't got, you have to kind of project it before you get it.
Yeah.
You know, and believe in it. So if I can talk about your business.
Sure, go for it.
You guys have to project what you want,
Yeah.
and then be patient, and it'll happen.
Yeah.
Because you're offering a good product, and you're both coming from a great place with who you are and what you represent, and you're not chasing money, but you need money to survive because it's a business. But money's not your number one. It's probably high up there because you're a business, but you're coming from an authentic place.
Yeah.
With what you're talking about, you're not. That's the feeling I pick up very strongly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
If you guys were just looking at me and my involvement for monetary terms, which I know is part of it, but it's not the big. I don't pick up that it's the main part. And I think you have to project what you want, and in psychology they call it visualization, and believe that you believe that you deserve it.
Yeah.
And practice, affirmations and visualizing, and not so much talking too much about it, but talking it to yourself about it.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I've used some of these things in teaching with the refugee students, and so much so that they open up to me, and I won't reflect on what they've told me, but it's quite personal.
Yeah.
Males and females
Yeah.
from Afghanistan, from Nepal, and you see the immediate effect that someone that acknowledges them and gives them encouragement. It's huge, the effect. I was talking to Ben earlier about awards and when people win awards, and it's great when people win awards, but it's kind of because we all have an ego, but it's not the biggest thing. An award's not and even getting a black belt. It's great to have a black belt, but it's not what having the black belt. It's actually what it represents in your development. And I used to think, I heard this a long time ago, it's good to be a black belt in a karate club, or what they call dojo, but it's better to be a black belt in life.
Yeah.
And that's, you can call it anything you want. In that analogy, it's kind of like decreasing the power of your ego too. Your ego gets in the way of all of us.
Yeah.
I'm better than this, I'm whatever you are. Sometimes if you can kind of be aware that, or mindful, whatever the term is, that you have an ego and you don't have to be right all the time.
Yeah.
I heard this saying, if you've got a choice between being correct or kind, be kind.
Yeah.
And this is where if you start that type of effect, and you don't have to be right because your ego says I've got to be right, or how do they know? They don't know what they're talking about. They're younger than me, or whatever the tenets are. You focus on not being too connected to your ego, because that's a big thing for all of us.
Yeah,
Our ego gets in the road all the time.
Yeah, well, you mentioned business and money not being the main driver, and it's not. You're right. Like we sort of spoke about this, and the thing, I deeply care about being authentic, because I think that is where connection is built from. Because we're not carrying around a mask. We're not trying to prove ourselves to someone. We're not trying to be something that we're not, and it disarms people. It allows people to be who they really are and to feel at ease. I'm listening to a great podcast at the moment, and it's the first time I've listened to this person. It was referred through a friend, and he's done a lot of spiritual exploration. He's spent time in India with yogis and different things, and gone through some mental health challenges. But it was really interesting. He said, like, when you measure up your life, and you decide what sort of success feels like, he goes, I think of being at peace. And he goes, a lot of people wouldn't see it like that, because I think when you really reflect on it, that's what it comes with. Like, it's feeling at ease, it's feeling in flow, it's feeling at peace with things. So sometimes you're content with life, but you're still not at peace. And so that's kind of that lifelong sort of journey, is to find that. And if we're not there, then it lends itself to that there's some kind of disharmony, and that disharmony is what usually leads to the things that cause us harm. And so it's like instead of putting these huge expectations on ourselves that says that I have to achieve this by this age with this amount of awards or this a black belt or whatever it is, it's like how much connection can you build? How much growth can you explore? Like how many experiences can you have that lend itself to feeling both content and at peace?
It's hard though, Daniel, because the message that we get from our environment is not that.
No, it's not.
And you have to be lucky. I think it comes a lot from yourself. And two words that come to me are time and circumstance. I think I've just forgotten what I was going to say.
That's all right. Look, I think even while you're sort of trying to recall that, it's a very fluid thing. Like when we talk about this, we're not talking about it's Mount Everest and we've reached the peak and now we've achieved all we have to achieve in life, because it's this constant state of kind of ebbs and flows. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to level out some of those like extremes that are causing us the most amount of harm, but generally sort of trend upwards, trend towards the style of life that we want to live, the one with deep connection, with open and open conversations which allow us to discover more, to explore more, to share things with people around us.
The point I wanted to make is trusting your life even when things are going crap. Because the person I am today is from all the things that happened to me, good, bad, ugly, that brought me to here.
Yeah.
And what the point I was going to make is when I did martial arts, I found it really difficult because I wanted to connect with people, because if you've seen the movie Karate Kid, Miyagi's son, he's the... Danielson. Show me your wax on. Show me wax off. No. Breathe in, Daniel. Breathe in. So
very good, very good.
But what I found when I did martial arts is there was a lot of ego, especially with karate. And if you delved into martial arts, I did Tai Chi and karate, and I had a smidgen of Aikido, and I've mixed with Aikido guys. I've got a very good Japanese friend who's an Aikido master. But each martial art reflects a character. Karate is gun-ho. Most guys are gun-ho, and I'm not a gun-ho guy, right? So when I got a little bit into it, I wanted to find people that I could relate to, and I started to think that martial arts was shaping me, and it does, but it didn't shape me as much as I thought it shaped me, because the example I want to show you is that I couldn't connect with people about things that I was into, like the stuff that Miyagi talks about in Karate Kid. It sounds corny, but that's the essence of martial arts, self-development, and the way he talks about it. Wax on and wax off, that's just film stuff. But so and then I realised when I got to a higher level that it wasn't actually karate, it was actually me, because I couldn't resonate with other people. And then I realised the reason is because it's not martial arts that's actually developing me fully, it's me. And I don't want to sound too egocentric here, but I wasn't seeing other people. And then when I got to black belt, there was hardly any black belt that was on my page, and they were thinking of how fast they are, how they can crunch people, how they're going to beat up the green belt.
Right.
There's no value in beating up the green belt, because that's why they're a green belt. You're supposed to kind of pull back a bit and encourage them, so they can develop, not kill them, and to prove that you're so great. And then I realised, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but it's actually where I was at. So where you're at, that's what you're looking for. So then I realised, I gave myself a lot of credit, because obviously there weren't hardly any black belts that were talking to me about stuff that was not egocentric. It was all about their ego. So then I realised that a lot of stuff that comes to us comes from inside us. It's innate. It's just the time and the circumstance where it's our time to use it and to believe in it. So, and that's where believing in yourself is so important. Different activities will help you. Martial arts will help you be more confident, but it won't necessarily be the answer, because the answer is inside you. Happiness is not outside you; it's inside you. And when you're aware of it, and when you've lived, see, I'm giving you an example. It's not about Nick, the great karate guy. It's about Nick understanding that the reason I didn't resonate with other black belts and other instructors is because they were caught up with their ego, right? So they were doing karate, but they weren't having the same impact as Mr. Miyagi was teaching, right?
Yeah.
And then that made me confirm that it must be me.
Yeah.
You know, and then the Aikido guy I met, the Japanese guy, he's on that page. You know, he's 7th Dan Aikido, which is master level. He's got no ego, right? And so, but Aikido is a great martial art, but it's not Aikido that really did it. Aikido helped him, but most of it is him.
Yeah.
It's his character.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're ever going to meet him, but he's like my best mate, but I never see him.
Okay. It's interesting the way, like, to me, ego is a form of attachment, and we attach ourselves to a value based on something that we do usually. There's a real danger in that. Like, it's a big lesson I learnt.
It's good to have an ego, but just don't get caught up in it.
Well, I think, like, yes, like, to me, self-confidence is not ego. Ego and self-confidence are mutually sort of, they're not the same. So an ego is getting caught up in it. It's an attachment. Self-confidence is believing that you have the capacity to explore new things, to take on new challenges, and you'll be okay. Ego says that I will be good at this because of this. Like, because I've attached myself to, I'm
a hero.
Right, whatever it is, okay? And so, like, I definitely, you know, I spent a lot of my life trying to prove myself to people. You spoke about this in school and trying to fit in, and oftentimes that came across, from learning from speaking to other people, it came across as what was perceived as arrogance or ego or whatever it is, but it was really just me trying to demonstrate I had value to someone, and my idea was that you had to be good at something. And so it was a flaw of mine, and something that took me years to learn. And
I don't think it's a flaw.
Well,
it's finding yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's what all of us are doing. We're finding ourselves. And the examples I used before about footy and the other examples I said, they couldn't have happened unless the other stuff happened.
Yeah, I agree. There's no regret.
I don't think it's a flaw.
Yeah.
And this is your self-talk. This is where I'd say this person's identifying a word to it.
Sure.
I'd say it's part of the process.
Okay.
And negative is a really good Zen saying. Zen is a philosophy. It's also a religion, but I'm not talking about religion.
Yeah.
That's Zen Buddhism.
Yep.
Zen philosophy says pleasure, pain, loss, gain, it's all the same.
Sure.
Basically means when you having a great time, don't get too caught up with it.
Yeah.
Be happy.
Yeah.
But don't feel like yeehaw, yabba dabba do.
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. And when you're having a downtime, don't get too caught up in the drama of the downtime because it's only temporarily.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an illusion. It's just something that we get caught up with.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say this is the best podcast you've ever had. It's going to make me happier or unhappier.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd like it to be good, but I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
And if it helps you and helps someone else, so be it.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, so be it.
Yeah.
So there's no attachment with my ego to I've got to be the best podcast or you know what people are going to say. I like his shirt or whatever they're going to say.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And you don't put extra into it or you don't take extra out of it.
Yeah. Agreed.
And Zen's a great leveler with that type of thinking because we don't have that in our lives unless you are aware and follow that type of thinking. So, yeah.
I value that. Like to finish off what I was saying about the ego and like that lesson of like, well, if you're a footballer or you're a 7th Dan or whatever it is, what happens when one day you can't do that anymore? You know, if you've attached yourself so strongly to that as part of your ego, as your persona, your mask, then when you're no longer able to participate or to act in that role, well, then you automatically lose all that value that you've assigned yourself.
I got an answer for you.
Whereas but you've already said it. You already said it in that, like, you know, we are who we are, and it's with everything is already within us. Like, we don't need to give ourselves these titles or roles or whatever to say that we have value. We inherently have value. Like, that is who we are, and when we recognize that and when we're grateful for that, then we are more at ease and at peace, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a 7th Dan or whatever level you are, it's more important to be that in life.
Yeah.
Right? Than to be that in just a club.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a great footballer and then you're not so great outside, which happens a lot in sport, I think, people get caught up with their image.
Yeah.
I saw a little bit about
It's easy
Roberto.
to get seduced by it, right?
There's a famous soccer player called Roberto Baggio,
Yeah.
who was a
I
star,
remember
star
Baggio,
player.
Argentinian, right?
No,
it was
Italian.
Italian, was it?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I saw it recently
Yeah.
on YouTube. I was just surfing around different things, and I followed his life story, and I won't go into it.
Yeah.
But the thing that hit me was his humility.
Yeah.
He was in the Pele,
No,
Messi,
I
Ronaldo
do
class.
remember. I might not remember what nationality
And
it was.
he was invited to Spain, and
Yeah.
he met Messi
Yeah.
when Messi kicked 4 goals.
Right.
And they had this meeting after.
Okay.
And the main message that Baggio said to Messi was, stay humble.
Yeah.
When things get even better than this,
Yeah.
stay humble.
Okay.
And Messi probably doesn't need it, to be honest, because he's so humble.
Right.
But Roberto Baggio's message to him as a superstar from before
Yeah.
is to the next superstar, just
Yeah.
reminding him, when things get
Yeah.
even bigger than what you are,
Yeah.
just remember,
Yeah.
because things will change.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And to that comes back to the other thing you were saying about the Zen philosophy, in that. So you mentioned about that sort of change, and the one that I learnt was through doing Vipassana, so like the silent meditation.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of Indian roots of that practice, and anicca. And anicca is that law of impermanence, which is what you were speaking about. So it's that things are constantly changing. So,
Yeah.
like you said, if it's good now, that's great. But remember that it won't last. But
No.
if it's bad, it's the same. Like
same thing happens to us.
Yeah.
Like your body, my body. If I was if I was your age, I'm much more capable of what I can do physically.
Yeah.
And when you get my age, your capability would decrease, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people never get the chance,
Yeah.
they never get the privilege of getting
Yeah.
older. So if you have a good life,
Yeah.
you got to accept. It's like perspective. It's lots of things, but it's natural to get older and to lose your faculties and all the rest of it. But you're still not any lesser of a person, because inside you're still the same person, but your body is not,
Yeah.
and that's you can't change that.
Yeah.
You can do exercise, you can have a healthy diet, you can have a healthy mindset, but you just accept the fact that that's part of life.
Yeah, I think of it differently. Like when people, because I'm quite professional in my preparation, and sometimes you'd be ridiculed for that. And it's like, oh, why would you want to live to 100 anyway? It's like, who said I wanted to live to 100? I want to live a quality life. Like I want to make sure that when whatever age I get to, that I've maximised my potential. Like I've realised, and I'm not talking about earning 6-figure incomes and like having a bunch of trophies. I'm talking about like living life fully, like actually having the capacity, the vitality to be able to do that. And so,
If you get the trophies and the money, it's still okay.
yeah,
'Cause you
yeah,
deserve
absolutely.
but you're just not caught up with it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so then the whole thing about aging, I think, first of all, I think we kind of accept it as if it's a given. And yes, we will age over time, but I think the rate that some people age at, I think it's because they're not living at their capacity. They haven't actually identified the things that really self-nourish and self-care for themselves, that allows themselves to extend that and to live closer to that higher quality life for a longer
Do
period.
you have older people in your life?
Yeah.
Okay, so we all have this. So I was using coloured belts as an example. Look at the people in your life, the younger people and the older people, and reflect on where were you when you were that age? What were you like? If you're lucky enough to have older people that are wiser and you can relate to them, use those people as a guide. And again, one philosophy I heard ages ago was, when I was becoming a teacher, was find something good about every presenter and stick it in your personal folder. So for example, one guy I had that was influential was a character. He'd make you smile, and I thought, I like that.
Yeah.
Or he'd talk to you. Knew something about you. I like that. So when I became a teacher, bang,
Yeah.
I'm going to smile. I'm going to find out about Daniel.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something personal to Daniel. I'm going to not talk about the subject all the time. I'm going to talk about life a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, this is like we talk about this. We've talked about it a lot with younger athletes in the whole mentor thing. But when we talk about role models, like there's often people draw, like especially when you're young, you're sort of taught that money and status and trophies and whatever are big, but like as you sort of like navigate your own way through that, you find that you're drawn to people for something else, and it might be that they have those things. Like you said, it's okay to have those things, but what is it about them and their story that you identify with? Because that'll teach you something about yourself. That'll teach you like what's going to be fulfilling for you and the way that you'd like to live your life. So when someone would identify someone as a role model, and you mentioned Messi before, so we can use him as an example, and it's not that he's a prolific scorer or that he's played at the top level for so long or he's won so many trophies. It's like it's the commitment that to get to that level. It's the dedication to hold himself. It's the humbleness or whatever it is. Usually, different people have a different perspective of this, but the key thing is, what are the characteristics you admire about that? And then look at other role models in your life and see if there's a pattern there, because generally that's going to teach you about yourself and what you care about, and therefore what you could then espouse and share more of with other people to try to create more of that in and around you.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
One thing on top of that, as well to follow that on, is every experience teaches you.
Yeah.
So most people look at positive experience, but negative experience, the concept of the failure. What did you learn in the failure or the not achieving your goal, which is equally as important.
Oh, sometimes it's more important because there's a hurt, there's a desire to rebound from that. Like sometimes in success, we get complacent, and we sort of forget to learn the lesson because it didn't hurt enough for us to really reflect on it.
Some people just accept it as that's me. That's my self-talk going. Okay, I'm not good enough, but to use it as a stimulus for change and not to get caught up in the drama of it.
Yeah.
I think it's really, if you're aware of that, but you have to have trust and belief, and you got to. If you don't trust yourself, no one will trust you.
Yeah.
And you have to believe. If you don't believe in yourself, no one will believe in you either.
Yeah.
So this is where, for people who are thinking that I'm not good enough or this is too hard for me, you have to have a starting point.
Yeah.
You've got to have a starting point, and the starting point comes with an idea, and then building on the belief of, I can do that. I can't do it today, but I can do this much today towards that.
Sure.
And then having the discipline and the persistence and the dedication and belief to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're an older person or any age, you're middle-aged. I suppose I call you middle-aged.
So I've gone from being a young fellow to middle-aged.
Well, you've aged this podcast, mate. I'm seeing grey stuff in your beard. I think it's all developmental. You develop. Me now compared to me when I was 21, completely different. But the essence of me is the same. And I think I talked about innate character before. What's already in you. I'm a searcher. I'm always looking for stuff. But now that I've got a bit of confidence, I kind of feel comfortable connecting with people, whoever they are. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what can I? And this is really huge for positive health, I think. You feel better about yourself when you do lots of different things. And one of those things is helping other people.
Yeah.
Now, helping other people might be going to a podcast,
Yeah.
because you've got nothing else to do in retirement, or smiling.
Yeah.
Just smile.
Yeah.
And by smiling, you're reaffirming who you are.
Yeah.
And you're making someone else, you're making a difference to that person.
Yeah.
Maybe, the homeless street donation is a pretty easy one, Buy the person a sandwich.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they say yes.
Yeah.
1 time out of 10, they get their nose out of joint, and they're too proud, and they go, no, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, you don't want it?
Yeah.
And it's fair enough, because they've got pride.
Yeah.
But, just buy a sandwich, buy a cake, buy a coffee, and give it to them.
Yeah.
Or anything at all where you're helping someone, where it's volunteering or your neighbour. I've got a neighbour that brings in my bins.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wants to bring in my bins.
Yeah.
That's lovely, but I feel a bit embarrassed, but he wants to do it.
Yeah.
So I let him do it.
Yeah.
So what I'd say to people in general is, if you want to increase your happiness, look at ways that you can smile more, believe in yourself more, and how can you help someone? And just simple smile, or when the checkout girl says to you, how are you today? Yeah, I'm doing okay. How are you today? What's coming up, And then you have to have a little bit of confidence to do that, because most people are going, not my business. But you can pick up a vibe from someone
Yeah, so we'll probably that time to sort of start wrapping up and to summarise kind of what we talked about. And you just mentioned about 3 things of importance, and I'll try and summarise them as best I can. So the first one being bring a positive energy. So wherever you're going, try and bring the best of yourself and invest something that's uplifting. The second one was self-confidence, like believe in yourself. And for those people that aren't there right now, like I think of it in a way where if you're lacking self-confidence, the way to develop that is to start something, to just take those first few steps in the direction you want to head in. So to do that, you need to make that decision between whether you want to live in fear of something and trying to avoid something, or if you want to move towards something, being love and hope for something better. And so, I mean, it's probably quite intuitive, but to me, it's the second one. And then the third one is kindness. It's sharing kindness with others and being self-aware of what that creates. Is there anything you wanted to?
Well, it's such a big topic, Daniel. To kind of sum it up in 2 or 3 points is difficult. But one thing we didn't talk about, which I think is crucial, is the ability to sit quietly with yourself. People are focused on relationships and other people and blah blah blah, but one of the key aspects is to all of the things we talked about is being able to have a relationship with yourself, which sounds like a ridiculous concept, but that's related to self-esteem.
Yeah.
So in the East and in martial arts and in anywhere in Buddhist, quietness. So when you go to nature, nature's quiet, nature's perfect, nature trusts itself. You, like osmosis, you pick it up. Like yesterday was my wife's birthday. Can I keep talking? It's just
Yeah,
a summary
absolutely.
part.
Go for it.
It was my wife's birthday, and spontaneously, right, I didn't get a card because she's not a fussed person. She doesn't like cards. You can be married over 25 years. I didn't get a gift because we're not into gifts. But spontaneously, we drove up to Stirling, went to a really great coffee shop, had great soup. We talked about how lovely it was, better than this, just the autumn trees. And then we ended up going to the Mount Lofty Rose Garden.
Beautiful.
Which is kind of a very steepy, you have to go down a lot and you got to come back up again. It's kind of a challenging walk.
Sure.
But we walked down to the lake and then we had to come back up. But it's just a brilliant day.
Yeah.
So that's quietness.
Yeah.
Nature's quiet.
Yeah.
And for people to firstly to go somewhere where it's quiet. So e.g. the beach.
Yeah.
Or a really nice park.
Yeah.
Botanic Gardens, anywhere where there's a beautiful setting.
Yeah.
But the point I want to make is to be able to sit quietly by yourself. People call it meditation or relaxation. It doesn't matter what you call it, but just sit quietly. And for most people, this is hard to do because your brain's jumping around like monkeys. So you sit quietly and you breathe slowly. As you breathe slowly, your thoughts slow down a little bit. The more you do it, the slower your thoughts go. So it's like water, the big waves is all your mind chatter. And then the water starts to settle. And then that's when you start feeling your intuition, your inner voice. And this is where I'm talking about trust. I can trust my intuition. Right? And I won't give you examples because it's not necessary, I don't think, but I'm happy to if you need to. But trusting your intuition, not your mind.
Yeah.
Your mind is your thinking one that talks about fear. Yep. All of us are perfect the way we are. And that's not trying to say I'm a hero or I'm better than anyone. All of us are perfect. You don't have to do anything. So we have a misconception that I'll be happy, I'll be better if. No, you won't. You got more money, then you spend it. That's not going to make you happy. Happiness is not what's outside you.
Yeah.
It's what's inside you.
Yeah.
And that's the part that no one can take away.
Yeah.
Baggio, but actually, I was surprised. He got into Buddhism, I think.
Right.
I saw him at a temple. Now, he's not the type of guy you'd think. So he realised, and he's content now. He's not the superstar that he was. He's just a normal guy with bad knees. Yeah. But he achieved so much. So what I'd say to people is find a time regularly. Now I'm going to make a suggestion. 5 minutes a day. Just sit down where no one's going to talk to you, where no TV, your phone's off. Just sit down for 5 minutes or 4 minutes and just breathe slowly. Now, the first few times you do it, you'll be thinking, oh, this is difficult, I can't, That's normal because your mind's going nuts.
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the better it is. And then what happens is you connect with yourself, which sounds a bit, I don't know what it sounds like to people, but we all have an intuition, but we don't listen to it.
Agreed.
So the more you can quiet your mind, the more relaxed you are. Health-wise, it's better for you because your organs are all energy.
Yeah.
So if your organs are relaxed, it's better for your health.
Yeah.
But the mind creates a lot of our life,
Yeah.
So really underline it a few times. Being quiet, being able to have a relationship with yourself before you have a relationship with anybody else.
Yeah.
And if I'm happier with myself and I understand myself a little bit more than normal, I got more to offer everybody.
Yeah.
So, and if you look at people who have done it to the high level, the Dalai Lama, Buddha, Jesus, all these people, they're the elite.
Yeah.
Then you look at other people in your life. Just look at people in your life and pick the people who are quiet and more quietly confident, quietly relaxed. They probably do a little bit of this, because that's why they got it.
Yeah.
And then most people haven't.
Yeah.
And you pick it up in their energy, you pick it up in what they say it, how fast they speak, how they speak, and then the person doesn't react to their comment, they go off on a tangent, and there's no connection, because you're talking and I'm going, oh yeah, bang, I'm going to go that way.
Sure.
So it's the ego takes my role and talks about what I've done, which I've done today, but you're interviewing me, so I have to do that. But in a normal situation, another thing that will help a lot of people is don't talk so much.
Yeah.
Listen more than you talk.
Yeah.
So and reply to the person that they're speaking to you.
Yeah.
Someone once said, we've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen more than you talk.
Yeah. Twice as much listening.
But I'd underline the quiet time is important.
Yeah. Beautiful. Awesome. I think we can leave it there. But is there anywhere people can find you, Nick? Like in terms of you have a social media account? Are you on LinkedIn? Or is there any of those sort of places where people can kind of connect with you or learn more about you?
I'm not the wrong guy for that, because I have a bit of a. I don't like the way people use phones.
Yep.
Like I go to the beach or I ride my bike, and people they're glued to their phone. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
So I rebel against that. So I just got. I don't even have Facebook.
Beautiful.
I've got
Same.
If anybody wants to contact me, I won't give you my contact details here, but you can contact Daniel.
Absolutely.
And I'd be more than happy for Daniel to refer you to me, maybe my email account.
Yep, I think that'd be a great way to do it.
Yeah, but really happy to meet anyone who feels a connection with me. More than happy.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Before I go, can I just say thank you again for the opportunity to be interviewed, and nice to meet Daniel and Ben, and all the best with you, what you're doing.
Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Pool Compliance Adelaide. Pool Compliance Adelaide has a simple mission: to provide professional advice and photographic proof that your pool complies with the relevant state statutory requirements. If you're buying, renting, or even selling a property, make sure your pool is compliant with Pool Compliance Adelaide.